We are going to reason how the foreign policy led to the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte. So in this case, Napoleon dominated the period 1799 to 1814. That period was called Napoleonic era. No one was supposed to talk except Napoleon Bonaparte. But as they say, officials go, offices remain. As they say, what goes round comes round. Time came, Napoleon Bonaparte collapsed. So in this case, we need to reason how the foreign policy led to the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte. So we are saying Napoleon I rose to power in November 1799 as the first consul. Following the overthrow of the directorate government, he crowned himself emperor in 1804 and ruled France up to 1815 when he was overthrown by the Allied powers. So we needed to reason how the foreign policy led to the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte. So we are saying Napoleon's involvement in the Battle of Trafalgar against Britain led to his downfall. It is said Napoleon was never contented in his mind. That's why he was insisting on defeating a country called Britain. But in reality, Britain was stronger than him. So what happened? When he insisted on defeating Britain, there was a war called the Battle of Trafalgar. What happened in the Battle of Trafalgar? Britain was supported by many countries, and finally, Napoleon Bonaparte was what? Defeated. When Napoleon was defeated in the Battle of Trafalgar, this created the road to Napoleon's downfall, because by this time, the leading country against him, Britain, became confident. Another area of argument, we are saying Napoleon's dynastic policy of employing his brothers and friends as kings. Let me tell you, Napoleon, after conquering areas, he used to put there his brothers and what? And friends. This made those countries where he put his brothers to challenge him. And by this time, this led to Napoleon's what? Downfall. Let me first explain this. So in this, when Napoleon put his relatives as leaders in the states he conquered, this made all of these states to ally with Britain to fight against Napoleon Bonaparte. And this led to his downfall. Then we are saying today, Napoleon's continental system. You remember, after Napoleon Bonaparte failed to defeat Britain militarily, he designed an economic strategy. What was this economic strategy? Under the Berlin Decree and Milan Decree, Napoleon refused the countries to trade with what? With Britain. As he refused the countries to trade with Britain, by this time, many traders became unemployed because they were relying on a country called what? Britain to survive. So by this time, this made Napoleon unpopular. The traders, even within France, started challenging his government. And it remained a question of time for Napoleon to collapse, which time came in 1815. Another one, the imprisonment of the Pope. I'm going to answer it. The imprisonment of the what? Of the Pope. Let me tell you something. Napoleon made a strategic mistake. Imprisoned the what? The Pope. Pope Pius VII in 1809. When Napoleon imprisoned Pope Pius VII in 1809, this made the Catholics in France and the whole Europe to gang up against Napoleon Bonaparte. By this time, Napoleon became unpopular. A popular man became unpopular. The Catholics rose up against Napoleon Bonaparte. In this kind of arrangement, we are realizing him collapsing. Another one, the invasion of Russia in the Moscow campaign of 1812. Napoleon invaded Russia in the Moscow campaign, where he organized over 500,000 soldiers to over 600,000 soldiers. What happened in Moscow? It is said Napoleon's soldiers, many of them had to do what? To die. At home, the relatives of the children he recruited in the army when they were young, at 10 to 11 years, started challenging Napoleon. In the Moscow campaign, this man wanted to teach the Tsar of Russia a lesson, but he became a student of that lesson because he was defeated. And this explains his collapse and downfall, Napoleon Bonaparte. Then we are saying today the defeat of Napoleonic French forces in the Peninsular Wars 1807 to 1812. What happened in the Peninsular War? Napoleon waged the war against Portugal. He realized that Portugal continued to trade with what? Britain. So he waged the war against Portugal. But he passed via Spain to attack Portugal. When he was from Portugal, he realized that the leader of Spain is very weak. He said, I'm overthrowing you. He put his brother. This annoyed Spain. Spain allied with Portugal. And finally, they defeated Napoleon Bonaparte. By this time, people started believing that Napoleon too could be defeated. Because at one time, they believed that Napoleon could not be what? Defeated. Another key aspect that involved the miscalculation of Napoleon in the Battle of Nations, Leipzig. Let me tell you, in the Battle of Nations, Napoleon thought he was going to defeat Britain because he knew that he had so many allies around here. But forgetting that Britain had more allies, the man miscalculated. He was supposed to move to east direction. He moved in the northward direction. And this explains why finally Napoleon had to collapse. Because nations rose up against his government. Then the involvement of Napoleon and his defeat in the Battle of Waterloo. What happened in the Battle of Waterloo? You remember at one time Napoleon escaped from where? From prison. Nations allied together where they collected around 800,000 soldiers. And Napoleon had 120,000 soldiers. It is this that led to his downfall. Because at Waterloo, many of his soldiers were killed. By the way, the newsman asked Napoleon, what can you say about Waterloo? Napoleon said, when a man seeks death, he cannot find it. Bullets were everywhere, behind and in front, but there was no bullet for me. In this kind of arrangement, I can say that for him, he managed to survive. But of course, this led to his what? Downfall. Another one, Napoleon's attempt to destroy Britain's trading empire altogether, where he designed the continental what? System. This made Britain to call upon countries to gang up against Napoleon, and this led to his downfall. Then the policy of spreading the revolutionary doctrines. When he was spreading the revolutionary doctrines of liberty, equality, and fraternity, it is this that annoyed the countries, because other countries didn't want these ideas to be in their what? In their countries. So it is this that made him unpopular in the eyes of other countries. By this, Napoleon had to collapse. Then, the excessive, aggressive, and expansionist policies. We are saying today, Napoleon was very aggressive. He was never contented. That's why he was eager to attack so many other countries. His aggressive nature threatened Britain. Britain called upon countries to gang up against Napoleon. And finally, this led to his downfall. We are saying today, the collapse of the League of Alliance of Armed Neutrality. Napoleon had made an alliance with the countries that they were supposed to be neutral. By the time Napoleon was fighting with the countries, some countries accepted to be neutral. And these countries like Russia, Denmark, and this gave him an upper hand at one time. But when the alliance collapsed, these countries allied with Britain, and finally they defeated Napoleon Bonaparte. So friends, you need to understand that the foreign policy led to the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte. A great star among all what? Stars finally had to collapse. Let me tell you, as they say, what goes round comes round.